So we're back in the workshop with Delilah, and we have to get her ready now for Dames de Coeur, which is at the end of the month. So she's got a few revisions to be done, a good check over, because we really haven't given any of the other cars a lot of love while we've been doing Purdey. Why are we using Delilah for Dames de Coeur? A couple of reasons. Firstly, being a 90 short wheelbase, she's a little bit more manoeuvrable around the tracks, which are quite narrow and twisty. Secondly, she has a 300 TDI engine, which gives me loads of low down torque, which is great for crawling up rocks and things like that. And thirdly, she's a bit scabby already, and I know from experience that Dames de Coeur scratches your car and you get bashed by trees and covered in mud. And with Delilah, I'm less precious about her than the others. So, and she did a great job last time, so that's why we're using Delilah. So Delilah's not playing ball this morning, being helpful with her prep for Dames de Coeur. So we've got to take a few bits off because she's a little bit closer to the ground than the others. This is Delilah's front prop shaft, but we seem to be missing a grease nipple on the front. Hopefully if we can find where it was, we can replace it, but it's a bit muddy. That's what comes with off-roading with your Land Rover, isn't it? That looks like it, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, these are the two bits of the prop shaft. We found the grease nipple, or the remains of it, so now that can be replaced. And this can all go back together. Checking things through on Delilah, and apparently her horns don't work, which is a bit frustrating. We don't know why at the moment. Definitely seems to be an earthing issue, doesn't it? Or something. It's a bit bizarre. Whoa. So the horn just turned out to be dirty connections. That's now working correctly. Yeah, that looks good. Do we have to make holes through the cubby box to hold that on though?
Yep.
So we've got Purdey back in the workshop. Our little Santana adventure was a test event, as you know, and so there's several things that we found that we needed to sort out. On the Rallye, one of the things that we learned wasn't working properly was this thing here, which is a MAF sensor. So that's a mass airflow sensor, and that wasn't working correctly, and that meant that Purdey was over fueling on the way to the Rallye. Changing that made her a lot better, but something else that we've had to change is this, which is the thermostat. So we found that this is the original thermostat for the engine, and it was actually stuck open, meaning that the engine wasn't getting hot enough. So that also contributes to the overfueling. So we've now replaced that with a new item, and as you can see, that's a bit manky in there, full of rust and stuff. So that's probably why it's not working properly, but it'll do as a spare. One of the other things that we discovered, which we kind of knew, was that the headlights are just really like glowworms, actually, candles. So what we're doing now is putting a new loom in, which will allow us to run bigger bulbs in the headlights. Now, a lot of people have said get LED lights, but they don't really conform to the kind of retro, genuine 1988 look. So we'd rather upgrade the bulbs if possible. Also, if we blow a bulb, we just change a bulb, whereas if an LED unit fails, we have to change the whole thing. So that's what we're doing at the moment, giving Purdey a bit of a once over to fix the easy things that we found were problems on Santana. And then obviously there's lots of things that we're going to do in the future to get her Dakar ready. So this new wiring loom has a couple of relays that need to be sited somewhere safe, but luckily this inner wing is plastic, so we can just put that easily up into there and then it's all good.
You've got your white pen.
So we fitted that little loom that's allowed us to put bigger bulbs in for off-road use. That's better, isn't it? Doesn't look quite like the LEDs are outshining the others. So dip beam and high beam. Might be able to see where we're going now. We're looking at where these spotlights can go on the front of Purdey. Obviously that means the number plate's got to move down. We didn't know if they'd clear, but it looks like they will.
Yeah, I think there's just about enough room to get the bolt in. I mean, it's going to touch that, but you know, that's got give in it anyway.
We need to just make sure it doesn't rattle, don't we?
Yeah.
Another thing that we found on Santana with our improvised heating system is that we obviously need to be able to demist the screen. That's quite important. But this little thing down here was obviously taking some of the air. So what we've done now is got a little plug for this that screws in so that we can give all of the air to the demister if necessary. How much was this?
That's €3.
€3. There you go. Billy bargain. We thought we would give you a bit of a rundown of how we felt Purdey performed on Santana Trophy. As you know, it was a test event. We've already mentioned the MAF sensor and the thermostat. Overall, she did really, really well, and we're super chuffed that we actually built a car that can tackle the Sahara. Now, I wrote some notes because there's quite a lot of stuff, so I'm just going to run through it really quickly. The scariest moment was obviously when we lost the bolt out of the panhard rod. That's an easy fix, it's already sorted. You remember on the video as well, we had some problem with the solder joints up on the for the intercom, because low heat solder joints apparently melt when it's quite hot in the desert. So that's something that we need to bear in mind for the future. One thing that we do need to sort out is getting some protection for the ECU and the fuses down here, because lots of stuff ended up on top of them, and then I felt that they were quite vulnerable. So that's something to sort for the future. Obviously the windscreen, as you saw, it leaks everywhere. So water not only comes on your feet, on my driving foot, but literally everywhere in the car. So we need some Sikaflex to put around the windscreen to actually sort that out. We felt that the steering damper needs to be uprated because there was quite a lot of feedback through the steering on the rough ground, so that's something that we'll do. A big thing is obviously the map on the ECU. I think we touched on it in the videos. We've got no low down grunt at all. It needs to be sorted out so that we get power lower in the rev range, and connected to that we need to have a rev counter, because when we've got the headsets on, and it will be worse when we've got helmets, I can't hear the engine revs at all, and it's so rev critical to keep the power on. Oh, what else? Gosh. Oh yeah. The roll cage. We love the roll cage safety devices, we really do, but I can't see anything out of that wing mirror on the passenger side with the roll cage in the way. So we need to get an extended arm for the wing mirror so that it can actually get some visibility. Oh yeah, the door's not really staying open properly. It's not too bad in here on the flat, but what happens is when you try to get in, the door closes onto your hip. So I had this massive bruise on my hip,
as a result of the door smacking into it, especially when it was windy. So that's something we need to address. These windows I've previously mentioned need to be changed for polycarb. Now we did put some polycarb in the back window, which has scratched massively already. So there's different options on the grade for the polycarb for these windows, and that's convinced us that we need to have the upgraded quality, which is supposed to be more resistant to scratching from sand. So that was a useful thing. The headlights, obviously, you know, we've already put a new loom in and sorted that out. And I also touched on this in the video, where the roll cage comes through the tub and the sand was coming in and it squeaks a little bit. That's something else to sort out. We think that we'll probably do two things for the air intake as well. We might look at putting a cowl onto the air intake to try and stop as much dust and sand coming in, but we also need to increase the diameter of the intake pipe for the air coming into the engine. On the rear shocks, we spoke to Ian from IRB, who was super helpful and really knowledgeable, and he suggested that we change them to pin shocks. So at the moment on the rear shocks there's like a pin on the bottom and then an eye on the top, which is more fragile. So that requires a couple of different mounts and some different shock absorbers. So relatively easy, just sourcing the bits. Another problem that we had was the gearbox, which is really close to the seat box. When we were going over rough wind, it was actually hitting the seat box. So some captive mounts for that would help that. This part of the dashboard as well, Chris has put a piece of metal under here to give it some support, because obviously we don't have all of the dash assembly that you would normally have. That needs to be uprated because that was sort of flapping about a little bit. All stuff that's useful knowledge. Now Ian also came up with some other things which would be nice to have. One of those is changing the Defender steering drop arm for one from a Disco 2, because it's a little bit more solid. There's lots of options. I mean, gosh, we could spend a fortune. We probably don't need to, but there's some things that we will definitely have a look at, and there's a whole list of them which I won't go into because it's all boring technical stuff. But overall, we were really pleased with the way that Purdey performs. So that's good, and for a first test we're super chuffed. So now we can move on and move forward, and we've got to look at other bits of equipment that go onto the dash, and we've got to get another fuel tank, the supplementary fuel tank in the back. There's quite a few things to do, but our main concern now, it's not a concern, it's something we need to address, is getting all of our funding in place, because the 7th of June is the day that we find out the route for Dakar Classic, all of the costs, and how our timetable works out. So that's a focus for after Dames de Coeur. Obviously we're going to keep you with us for the whole journey, so you won't miss anything. So Delilah's ready for Dames de Coeur. It's now Sunday afternoon. She's had a wash. We've given her a check over. She's had some revisions, as you've seen. Jenny will arrive tomorrow, and then on Wednesday morning we're going to be heading to Burgundy. Now we've got a few things to do before we get to Dames de Coeur. We need to be there on Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So the video again next week is going to come at probably a strange time, because I don't think we're going to get a chance to upload any footage for next Sunday. So we're going to take you with us on Dames de Coeur. Dames de Coeur is in the mountains and the forests of Burgundy. It's a much more technical rally than the things we do in Morocco. And the important thing about that is that it's for breast cancer research. So I'm wearing the t-shirt from Dames de Coeur 2 years ago. This year we'll have a different colour t-shirt. It's 100% feminine rally, and we always have a really great time. So we're really looking forward to you coming with us for that adventure. Thank you so much again for watching, and I haven't said it for the past few videos. Please give us a big thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. And before the wind gets up, I'll bid you goodbye and see you next time.